Maxie receives a mysterious old toy box without return info. His mom brushes it off as a pre-ordered gift. Maxie opens it. Inside are beautifully detailed figures, unlike anything he's ever owned. At bedtime, Maxie sets them up on a shelf. One of them, the pale Requiem, is missing from the box, though his packaging is torn. The box arrived while Maxie was still at school. It stood on the doorstep like a squat little coffin, corners scuffed and tape yellowed at the seams. The shipping label had no name, just his address in jagged block lettering. Marker, not printed. No return sender, no barcode. His mom didn't question it. She'd ordered a lot for Maxie lately. "Must be from that retro figure store," she said, setting it on the kitchen table. "Didn't you beg me for that classic hero collection thing?" Maxie hadn't. But when he got home and saw the box, long, heavy, sealed with silver twine like an old-fashioned gift, he said nothing. He was too fascinated by it. It looked important, sacred even. The outer box was lined with a faded velvet in the shape of compartments. Each compartment fit a toy like a sarcophagus. But these weren't just toys. These were perfect. Each figure was built from materials Maxie didn't recognize: stone-textured armor, translucent chrome, real cloth, shimmering lenses over eyes that looked almost expressive. He ran his finger over Granite Heart's mountainous frame. He tapped on Aurora Sentinel's crystalline chest. He lifted Velocity Viper, who practically purred in his hand. The toy at the center, Blaze, was the only one unwrapped. He stood in the box as if he'd broken free himself, molded in a mid-pose suplex, arms flexed and flame decals flaring. Maxie lined them up on his shelf with reverence. "Who are you guys?" he whispered, as if they'd answer. There were 10 compartments total. He counted 9 toys. One was missing. The plastic mold was cracked in the empty spot. Just a torn patch of shredded foam and a few strands of what looked like linen, like a burial shroud. He picked up the slip of paper tucked in the box's flap. It was scribbled on the back of a faded product tag. "You don't choose your champions. They come when the night is darkest." That night, he asked his mom to leave the door open. "I think one of them's missing," he said sleepily. She smirked, ruffling his hair. "Yeah? Maybe he's hiding in your dreams." Maxie stared at the shelf for a long time after she left. The spot in the middle stayed empty, but every so often he swore he saw something shift in the shadows, like a hooded figure just out of frame. Always just out of frame. He fell asleep with one hand under his pillow and the other curled around Blaze's foot. As Maxie drifts to sleep, time slows. The hallway clock ticks once and everything freezes. The toys jolt awake. Blaze ignites. Panthera Prime stretches in silence. Night Wraith melts from shadow. The toy realm has activated. We see the house through their eyes, twisted slightly, as if seen through a child's lucid dream. They begin patrol formation. The second Maxie slipped beneath, the house exhaled. One tick from the hallway clock stretched impossibly long, echoing like a cathedral bell underwater. Maxie's chest rose, fell, and stilled. Then everything else moved. With a faint shink, Blaze's fingers twitched. His neck cracked left, then right. His flame decals flickered, then flared. Orange glow simmered under his chest plates as his eyes powered on, gleaming like coals. Panthera Prime's silver form uncoiled from the windowsill. His feline limbs landed silently on the hardwood. His claws extended with a snicked, ears swiveling like radar dishes. A low growl rumbled in his throat, not of threat, but readiness. One by one, others stirred. From a beam of starlight on the far wall, Aurora Sentinel's crystalline frame refracted into shape. Her armor hummed, scanning the room with optic shimmer. Neon Fury's whip flicked out from behind a desk lamp, coiling around a loose plug before she twirled out of a neon scribble of graffiti light, grinning. Then the shadows bled. From the foot of Maxie's bed, in a space too thin for any figure to hide, Night Wraith emerged. No sound, no ceremony. Just a ripple of matte black armor, gauntlets activating with soft mechanical clicks. His echo pulse lit up for a moment, showing the blueprint of the entire room in red wireframe before blinking off. "Online," he muttered, voice like static across a police scanner. Across the ceiling, a blue spark zipped by, the AI cores of Velocity Viper and Crimson Comet rebooting in sync. From under Maxie's dresser came the muffled hiss of Cobra Strike, tongue flickering, fangs extended. He curled around a Hot Wheels ramp like it was jungle canopy. And then came Granite Heart. The entire room shifted, literally, as her massive stone body rose from where she had lain in the corner, disguised as a chunk of Maxie's geology project. She stood to full height, cracking her shoulders as tiny motes of dust cascaded off her obsidian skin. "Status check," she rumbled. The others responded by name, codename signal. One by one, the patrol roster locked in. Except one. They all looked toward the shelf, toward the empty spot. The Pale Requiem's compartment was dark. "I'm detecting latent static near the closet," Aurora said, visor adjusting. Panthera sniffed the air and flicked his tail. He was already stalking toward it, body low. Granite Heart turned to Night Wraith. "Anything on your scan?" He shook his head once. "Not yet, but there's something wrong with the house tonight." "How?" Blaze asked, cracking his knuckles as fire danced between them. "Kid sleeps. We fight shadow creeps. Same dance, different night." "No," Night Wraith said. "The dark's moving different. It's listening." A long silence. Then Granite Heart said, "Weapons ready. Patrol begins." The toy realm had awakened. And somewhere behind Maxie's closet door, something else had too. In the basement HQ, a converted shoebox city, the core team convenes. Granite Heart leads the briefing. The Pale Requiem, always late, appears in silence. Tensions rise when Night Wraith suggests something has entered the realm last night. Cobra Strike senses new tremors in the toy line circuits. Panthera Prime growls softly at the closet. The basement looked different at night. By day, it was a messy sprawl of bins and foam mats, Maxie's half-finished projects and bent Lego castles. But once the toy realm activated, it transformed into a labyrinthine metropolis. Handmade buildings repurposed from shoeboxes and cereal cartons, towered over by pencil crane structures, action figure bridges, and battle-scarred dioramas stitched together with forgotten imagination. The team called it the Box Line. Tonight, it pulsed with unease. Granite Heart stood at the center of the war table, a cracked pizza box painted to resemble blueprints. Her stone fists rested on either side of the old Hot and Ready logo. Light from Aurora Sentinel's core cast rainbows across the cardboard. "Status sweep," Granite said. "Velocity Viper and Crimson Comet scanned perimeter," Aurora replied. "No breaches." But the closet door's ajar. "It was closed when lights went out," Night Wraith said. His voice came from above. He was crouched on the rafters made of popsicle sticks and paper towel tubes, almost blending in. "I checked the latch marks. It opened after activation." Cobra Strike, coiled near a roll of duct tape that served as a training ring, flicked his tongue with distaste. "Door opens all the time. Could be airflow. Kids' dreams make weird wind." Panthera Prime said nothing. He sat perched on a wall of comic book backboards, one paw twitching as he watched the closet across the room through a basement window. "I'm not convinced it's nothing," said Aurora. "There's feedback across the toy line junctions." Granite Heart frowned. "Explain." Aurora raised a hand. Light from her palm projected a miniature star map across the war table. It wasn't stars, though. It was a grid of connections between the toy's consciousness cores. They pulsed like veins. But one of them flickered erratically, like a glitching heartbeat. "This happened during the last patrol, too," she said. "Just for a second, one of us blinked out." Everyone looked at the empty space in the grid. There was no label. "That's impossible," Blaze said, stepping forward. "We've all been accounted for." "Have we?" Night Wraith's Echo Pulse scanner flicked on, painting the room in red wireframe. He zoomed in on the flickering node. "There's no record ID, just presence, ghost signal." Granite Heart straightened. "Pale Requiem?" No one answered. She looked around. "Anyone seen him?" Neon Fury scoffed. "Of course not. Always late, always brooding." Then a gust of air, a cold drop in pressure, and he was there. The Pale Requiem stood at the far end of the room, on top of an overturned mug like a silent gargoyle. His head tilted slightly, his voice low and dry. Roll call completed. Even Night Wraith flinched. "You always have to make an entrance?" "I never left," Pale Requiem whispered. The temperature dropped a few degrees. Cobra Strike hissed, half in annoyance, half in wariness. "What does that mean?" But Pale Requiem said nothing more. Panthera Prime suddenly growled. All heads turned to the closet window again. In the toy-sized view of the room above, the door was still open. A shadow passed behind it. No sound, no light, just movement. The silence that followed felt deeper than usual. On patrol through the room, Aurora Sentinel and Neon Fury inspect the closet, the epicenter of recurring energy spikes. The door is cracked. Inside, nothing, but one figure turns to look back. and the shadows behind them ripple. Just before the door creaks shut again, a single white rose petal falls onto the carpet. The patrol ascended the staircase from the box line like soldiers entering enemy territory. From the basement to Maxie's room, the journey passed through a warped version of his waking world. Banisters stretched taller, shadows grew longer, and even the floorboards whispered when touched. Time here didn't behave. Sometimes they moved quickly. Sometimes the air itself resisted every step. Tonight, the hallway had a pulse. Aurora Sentinel led, her boots glowing faintly with chromatic light. Beside her, Neon Fury bounced on her heels, twin plasma whips twitching like nervous snakes. Last time I was near this closet, my whip shorted out, Neon whispered. It crackled like it had a stutter. And I don't stutter. It's not electromagnetic, Aurora murmured. It's interference. Neon glanced sideways. Interference with what? With us. They reached Maxie's door. It was slightly ajar, letting in a wedge of hallway moonlight. Panthera Prime was already crouched near the closet, his gleaming eyes fixed, his body still. Cobra Strike lay curled atop a fallen comic book, eyes narrowed, tongue flickering in rapid bursts. I'm not feeling anything, Blaze muttered behind them, stretching his neck. All this tension for an open door? You weren't built to feel what I do, Cobra hissed. You just burn it. Aurora raised her hand. Quiet. The door creaked. Not fully, just a breath's width. Enough to make every figure still. The closet beyond was cluttered with stacked board games, shoe boxes, an old Halloween costume, a plush shark missing one eye. And deeper, so deep it looked like the space had grown longer, was darkness. Neon flicked her whip once. A ripple of neon blue lit the interior. Bouncing off a tangle of forgotten objects, something moved. At the back, not an object shifting, but a silhouette, tilting its head. Aurora stepped forward. Then it turned. Not all the way, just enough to catch the light in the glint of one narrow eye. A porcelain white surface, a face, a mask, but the shadows behind it moved wrong, as if detached, as if the light was too scared to touch them. Then the eye vanished. The closet door without wind began to swing shut. No toy moved. The creak was slow, unearned. Click. Silence. They stood there for a long time. Then, drifting from beneath the door, a single thing emerged. A petal, snow white. Soft, curled at the edges like the tip of a tongue. It floated to the floor and landed in front of Aurora's boot. A white rose petal. Neon stared down at it. She whispered, Requiem? But the pale requiem was gone again.